Yesterday, unsurprisingly, there was much discussion about the market. Adam Smith's faith that market processes serve the public interest isn't always realised. Producer interest and consumer self-interest alone don't guarantee an optimal outcome. Nor is it correct to refer to the market as if there is one ideal to which all real-world markets should aspire. Real-world markets take many forms, such as barterings between buyers and sellers in a bazaar, open outcry auctions like those used for commodities, posted prices by sellers in retail stores, or posted prices by buyers and sellers on the stock exchange. The rules of these markets might just be conventions, or they might be grounded in legal authority. How effective the market is depends on these rules, the market design. Yesterday, Faisal gave us an example of a market broken because of learned helplessness by consumers. Our challenge is to ensure the design of the energy market, or its sub-markets, is effective for the transformation before us. This is truly a wicked problem, because any market design is a self-reinforcing system. When the rules are formal, as they are in energy, they can become barriers to innovation, barriers to the transformation we need. Now, last year's forum noted that we have multiple reviews and even roadmaps, and posed the question, is there a way to get common ground between consumers, retailers and policymakers outside the regulatory process? There are new business models and technologies in three aspects of the market. There's the changing nature and location of centralised generation. There's the investment by homes and businesses in distributed energy resources. And there's the requirement for distribution networks to support two-way energy flows. And all three aspects are the subject of intense activity and inquiries in our sector. Notably, the Finkel review, as we've just heard from Chloe, reviews of the consumer protection frameworks by the Australian Energy Markets Commission and the COAG Energy Council's Energy Market Transformation Project team, on the far end, Energy Network Australia's Network Transformation Roadmap and a whole host of other activities. Finding the opportunities for collaboration in this space is actually challenging. Energy Consumers Australia has, over the last year, organised briefings and workshops for consumers on these issues, and we will do more. Some of the issues relating to distributed energy resources are picked up by our work by Chris on Choice and through the work that Lynn's leading on consumer protections. The potentially fertile area for further collaboration is in the changes to the operation of distribution networks. At a workshop last week, we put the presentations of the half-hour version, not the 2.5-hour version, of the ENA Network Transformation Roadmap, the AGL Virtual Power Plant, and the AEMC Distribution Market Model back to back. It was actually quite interesting when you put those three pieces of work sequentially. We identified 4 areas where further industry effort can make a difference. The first is, surprisingly, network pricing reform. Everyone will happily say network pricing reform will take place in 2017. We all know that there's still a lot more work to be done to figuring out how we ensure that that network pricing reform facilitates the development of the distributed energy resources market, that the pricing mechanisms become effective in that market. The second interesting one is the important role that standards will take. And these are standards both on equipment and on information transfer. Standards can be market facilitators, but they can also be barriers. They're a well-known pathway of industries that are protectionist to create barriers for entry. Now, Standards Australia is undertaking a couple of pieces of work, one on storage at the request of the COAG Energy Council, and one on the Network Transformation Roadmap exercises at the request of Energy Networks Australia. Now, both of those pieces of work are due to have roadmap reports come out in the next week or so. And our group thinks that it's important that these pieces of work get lots of industry support. I'll make an aside here and say that some other industries have already moved to the point of setting up their own accredited standards development bodies to take full control of their standard setting. The energy market is still relying upon Standards Australia as the forum for doing that. And one of the weaknesses of that model is you are dependent upon bidding for the resources of Standards Australia in getting prioritisation of your work. So there's an open question in my mind as to whether continuing to use the Standards Australia process or creating an industry accredited standards making body is a worthwhile exercise. But it's a question. And there are two data-related pieces to this distributed energy market. The first is what data do networks need to make available for the DER market, for the distributed energy resources market, and the reverse, what information needs to flow from the distributed energy resources market back to networks. So those are four pieces of work that we think we are going to look at. The fifth piece of work sort of emerged in the conversation around this, and it sort of goes back a bit to the conversation about the Finkel review, which is to generate a blueprint. And we had a bit of a conversation and came to the conclusion it's not so much a blueprint we want, which is a one-off design, it's a roadmap. What is the roadmap for the whole sector, not just the distributed resources piece? So this group of people who have been assisting so far in this work, or an augmented one, will be progressing on these issues over coming months. And we'll continue to look for other opportunities. And we are going to, or I'm going to as the convener, involve ourselves in a bit more of a reach-out exercise on these activities. Now, on the weekend, I went to see a movie. The movie was Hidden Figures, because there's never a bad movie about mathematicians, in case you didn't know. The film includes an excerpt from President Kennedy's great speech at Rice University on 12 September 1962, where he said that he chose to go to the moon not because it was easy, but because it was hard. If finding common ground between consumers, retailers, networks and new energy service providers was easy, we wouldn't need to talk about it. We wouldn't be dependent on waiting for regulators and policymakers to decide for us. But it is because it is hard that makes it worth doing.